Ah, yes, the word Avenir is a French word that means the future. But this is the United States, and this is Buick. So it really begs the question, is there an Avenir in your future? Please, stay with us, and let's work this out together. Hmm?
Never know what's going to happen when they go for the restyle. And sometimes it can be a disaster, and other times it's art. And in my opinion, the new Buick Enclave for 2025, the particular edition we have is the Avenir. I think it is a stunning remake in terms of the styling, because it just really has a great look to it. It's very, very smooth, silky, wonderful. Looks like it could slide through the air very nicely. And yet it still has all those wonderful things that you want in this. People would call it like a mid-size, some do. It's a full-size SUV to me. It's a three-row guy. And as you can see, we have a massive wheelbase of, I believe, 120. I want to say 120 inches. I'll double check that. But it's absolutely stunning in that it's beautifully executed. It doesn't have a lot of weird stuff on it. Instead, it just looks classy. And this theme is carried on throughout the interior as well. They've made a really upscale version of a very, very utilitarian, if I may say that, SUV. It has plenty of room for your kids and their friends and a dog and some cargo. And everybody is going to have comfort because it's very, very roomy at all places. This particular version's got your captain's chairs in it. And as you can see, let's take a look at this back end here. Now right here, you can see very clearly that a lot of space is devoted to that rear door to make it as roomy as possible, to get in and out to those captain's chairs. But then you also have a very, very squared off tail end to make room for your third row passengers. And that's one of the most important things about a three row. If you're going to go get a vehicle that has 3 rows of seats, it's very helpful if all 3 rows are actually usable. And in the case of third rows, sometimes you have your knees up in your chin and that kind of thing. We'll examine this and see if, in fact, it still maintains that excellent room that this particular GM family has had, which is your Chevrolet, starts with a T, can't remember it ever, the GMC Acadia, and the Buick Enclave. So our Enclave may or may not be as roomy as the old one was, but looking at it from here, I think you've got all the space you are going to need. Now, what else has changed on this vehicle since its inception several years ago? Well, we've dropped our V6 and we now have a turbocharged 4-cylinder. Have you ever heard of that happening before? Well, it's happening everywhere. It's actually the rule, not the exception. And but it's a powerful little thing, as you will see in just a minute. And it also has the ability to drive in the wintertime with great control, because this is an all-wheel drive version. Standard versions come with front-wheel drive, but this is an all-wheel drive version. So you have that all-weather capability, i.e. skiing. That's one of the first things. I got a friend who's a ski nut, and that's his #1 criterion for a vehicle. Can I go skiing in this? Can I get up to the slopes with it? You bet you can. And in great comfort, like I said, it's very, very nicely set up for having several of your friends or your kids or your whole family, the whole kit and caboodle, in great comfort, and go whatever the weather is to wherever you want to go, pretty much. Is it an off-road captain? No, it's not built for that, but it is built for any kind of road conditions, especially snowy, icy. It has over 7 inches of ground clearance, by the way, the Avenir version does, and that's quite a bit. So without further ado, let me show you this new non-V6 engine, this Inline Four turbo. Beneath the gaping maw, we have 2.5 liters of turbocharged inline 4-cylinder power. This particular engine, like I said, we started out the particular family of Enclaves, Acadias, and the mysterious T-word Chevrolets with the V6 engine. It was a nice fit, nice engine. But this is 2025 and we have an inline 4 that's turbocharged. Now how does all this work here? Well, let's see. Our air comes into this massive air box. Whee-hoo! And look at this. We have an arc all the way around. And I don't know what this does right here. It almost looks like a filter, but maybe some kind of resonator to keep the intake honk down to a minimum. I don't know what that's for actually, but there it is. But we go around to the back of the engine, and that is where we have our exhaust manifold, and hence our turbocharging array is right down in here. And then once it's turbocharged, it comes all the way around, and somewhere underneath all this, I'm sure there is an intercooler to cool it back down, because when we compress, we heat up. So it cools it back down and gets to the intake system, which is right here. What kind of intake system do we have? I have to look it up. It doesn't say anything prominent that says gasoline direct injection, but it probably is. I would be happier if it was multi-point fuel injection, because I prefer that for reasons I went into with a vehicle I just tested. I don't know what order it's going to be on my channel, but I still like good old-fashioned multi-point fuel injection myself. But it's packaged such that naturally it's mounted transversely. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's where our cylinders are, and it is bolted to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, what are the numbers? Here we are. I have them. We have 328 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, and your torques come in at 326 pounds of feet at 3,500 RPM. So it's not like one of these basement powered suckers where you get all this torque coming on at like 1,400 RPMs. It's a little more conventional in when the torque peak hits, which is 3,500 RPM. And this is a fairly quick revving engine, so that's not an issue really. What else? Well, look at the size of this cowl area here. You know, there's a lot of cooling things underneath. There's radiators, there's air conditioning condensers, there's an intercooler, no doubt, and all that kind of thing. So that's all up here. And I'm sure we have I'm sure all the fans and everything are electric, because that's what you have to do when you have a transversely mounted engine, because you can't put it at the end of the crank or something like that. You know why, don't you? Well, of course you do. Now, I don't see, right off the bat, I don't see any belts. Are there no belts here? Do you see one? You see a belt down there? Now that's interesting, because if there are no belts, that tells me that everything is so many. Oh, wait a minute, there you are, way down there. There it is. There's your serpentine belt all the way down there that powers your alternator. Probably your fuel, your water pump and all that other stuff. So it does have a serpentine belt. That's not surprising in the least. It's only the hybrids that seem to go with getting rid of belts altogether and putting electric motors in for everything. But over to the right, we have our massive 12-volt battery that does not appear to have a koozie. But it is rock solid. Look at here, you got this structure on top here to keep that. You don't want your battery bouncing around in there. It's just no good to do that. What else? We take 0 W20 oil, which is extremely common these days. And I recommend that you change it every 5,000 miles, just like everybody else, and use a reputable, well, your choice, oil that way you're not going to have any oil problems with this vehicle, more than likely. If you watch any of these great channels like I Do Cars with Eric, I believe it's Eric, he rips open engines that have failed, and you'd be amazed at how many times that failure can be traced to people not servicing the engine, i.e. not changing the oil in a timely manner. So do what Boots tells you. Every 5, put new oil and a filter on there, and the manufacturers tell you, no, you can go 10. I don't think that's the best idea in the world. From an environmental standpoint, it sounds better, but the thing is, if you have your motor oil, your used motor oil properly sent to the right kind of place, they will recycle most of it and turn it into things like heating oil. It's really interesting, the process. But anyway, 5,000 miles and you'll be happy. It's a good fit, this 8-speed automatic with this engine. And like I said, those are good numbers that it's putting out. But this is a vehicle that weighs how much? 4,713 pounds. That's quite a bit. It's a heavy vehicle, and it is okayed by GM to tow 5,000 pounds with it, which is a lot for a vehicle like this, but I don't know. I don't have a trailer to hook it up to. Well, there's that. That weighs, oops. Now I've done it. Hang on. Let me show you the proper way to put the hood down on something like this. See, it's got the air jets. There you go. Klunk. Has a nice solid feel, this vehicle. So anyway, that's our propulsion system. It's not exactly the latest type of hybrid thing, but it looks like it's probably going to get pretty decent mileage with that little 4-cylinder. We shall see over time, and I shall notify you. Until then, let's look a little further at this exterior. The tire is a Continental. I learned that at barkeeping school. If you recognize that reference, God bless you. That's all I got to say to that. We have massive wheels here. The tire size is 275/45 R22. These are 22-inch wheels, which are huge, but they still, here's a good thing, they still have a bit of meat on this tire right here. It's fairly, you can take some bumps and little potholes and things like that without too much trouble. The Continental in this particular flavor is a cross-country LX20. That's what you have there, your LX20, which is much better than your LX19 in my view. You have what looks to be a smaller size than I would expect brake rotor, but you know what it is? When you have 22-inch wheels, it makes all the brake rotors look tiny by comparison. Caliper's a good size, but so far in driving this thing, there's no problem in the braking department. It's got plenty of stopping power that I've experienced anyway. But anyway, as I mentioned before, I said 120-inch wheelbase. Technically, it's 120.93 inches. So I'm gonna break all the rules, because that's the kind of man I am, and call it 121-inch wheelbase. And it's very, very long, and yet it doesn't really, in my experiences with parking this vehicle in fairly tight parking lots, it moves around quite nicely. It has a good turning radius on it that I think, at least in tight quarter, what I call your tight quarters turning radius. And let us expand. So this is the space we have, 22 something cubic feet, with all the seats deployed. And it's very nicely finished. And underneath chair, we have a storage pad. Look at this, it's a tub. You can have a little bath here. I don't think they recommend that you fill this up with water and sit in it, but there's a lot of room there. That's what I'm saying. Do we have a spare underneath here? Spare tire? Spare? I don't see one. Huh, is it possible it's underneath the tub? Could be. Can I just lift this? I'd have to undo these locks. Do you want me to do that now? Okay. Oh, you have to unscrew it completely. There may be, I'll look and I'll tell you. rather than spend all this screen time. Oh, wait a minute. Hold everything. GM has already thought about this. Look at this. We have an illustration. See, there's the tire mysteriously below this tub. So you do have a temporary spare tire. That's good, especially since this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, and that can be important if you need that. Now let's put what happens if I do that? Oh, wow. One of the captain's chairs just collapsed. And what happens if I do that one? Oh my God, that one collapsed. And what about this one here? That's going, eh. Oh my God, look at that. Power. It won't go all the way down because of where the, yeah, that's right. Because those seats in front need to be pulled up more, but I'm sure it'll go all the way flat. But examine, if you will, the commodious interior. It is commodious. It has a lot of room in it. We have a place here for one of these parcel concealer things. I don't see one though, and I don't know if it came with one and it's ended up somewhere in the on the ground in a pile at the fleet company, or more than likely this particular model, it's not standard fare. But you could get it if you need it, and you could put it all the way. There's one that goes all the way up here, you see. So if you need to conceal your parcels, there's a way to do it. I just don't think it's a standard feature. Now let's see if I can get everybody to sit up here. Woo! Electric power. See what I'm doing here? I'm using that right there. Woo! How about that other seat? Okay, very good. And you, which way is... this won't lift up. It's designed just to flop forward, not lift up. So I think you have to manually resume your positions for the captain's chairs. Either that or I'm doing something I don't understand, but yeah, there's two arrows here for the third row, one arrow for the second row. There you go. But it's very nicely finished too. I should point that out. These headrests fold down so you can actually see out the back if necessary, which is always necessary. And Bob's your uncle. I have the values on the screen. As far as I know, it's 28 and like maybe 57, and then all the way up to like a 95. It's ridiculous, the amount. When you have all the seats folded, it's ridiculous, the amount of room you have. It's huge. You can get all kinds of things in the back of this vehicle. And of course, our power liftgate is the epitome of flashing convenience. See, if the lights don't flash while the power gauge is going up and down, what good is it? That's what I got to say. I love the flashing. So there we are. This is the corner of a very roomy vehicle, especially that third row, which is set up for actual human beings. Let's go further into the inside, shall we? There is a noise that I don't recognize. Sounds like the air conditioner. It sounds like chemicals are mixing in the air conditioning. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's not annoying or anything, really. It's just there. It's not totally silent. Well, you know what I could do? I could turn that off. I've now turned off the air conditioning system, and it's still making the noise. No idea what it is. Well, I'll turn it back on then. Well, I don't know what was going on there. Welcome to our instrument cluster, and welcome to one of my favorite things about contemporary GM vehicles is the fact that they have this nice integration between the center screen, which is displaying a map at the moment, and the instrument cluster. And the instrument cluster on this is a bit baffling initially, in that if you want to do something like I do all the time, which is reset trip meters, I use trip meters quite a bit. You have to find the menu to go to in order to do that. And it seems to me that on the settings mode, I can't remember. You can see a few of these things here. I can't now remember what the heck that I used to find what I was looking for. Vehicle status, gauges. But incidentally, that's an interesting one because we don't have any, a lot of these gauges over here, But over here, when you select that particular menu, look at that: battery voltage, coolant temperature, oil pressure, transmission fluid temperature. One thing it does not appear to have is it never tells you what's going on. Oh, you can add that to the driver's display. That's interesting. This does have a heads-up display, which I've got turned off right now. I don't remember exactly how I did that, but I don't remember how I did half the stuff on this car, because it is not, I hate to admit, the most intuitive vehicle I've ever dealt with. Like, you press the camera thing right there. You press the camera thing right there. There we go. And you have a 360 camera. There's the overhead, which is that. And then the standard, which is that when you're backing up. Well, that's in front of me, actually. Front, yes. And then side, you get the side if you hit that. See, there's both your sides right there. So that's interesting. It says front. So that's the adjustment for the front camera, but the backup camera is pretty much, once you put the vehicle in reverse, which I will do now, there's our backup camera, and then we have an overhead for the backup. And that's kind of good if you have a trailer hitch, because you can see right behind you from an overhead view, I think. And then we have the side views, looking out the back, looking out the front. And then there's our standard. So as you can tell, we have a lot of different things going on with that. And I'll put it now back into park. Thank you. So anyway, where was I? Oh yes, I was trying to find out how to adjust the... If we go to settings, let's try this again. Vehicle, drive mode selection, and I have that on, and what is it telling me? Well, we're in two-wheel drive. Yeah, we can press this button here and we're going to four-wheel drive, I think. Yep, now we're in all-wheel drive. So this dedicated switch right over here will turn you on and off for four-wheel drive. Now, in terms of modes, you got off-road, you got snow and ice, you got sport, and you got touring, which is what I usually have it on. And I recommend that for most of your average driving situations. Oh, here we go. Way over here. Can you see that there? There we go. I can turn on and off. There it is. I don't know if you can see that. There, you can see it. I can see it flickering. But there is your heads-up display if you're so inclined. At least it's easy to turn on and off. I give them full credit for that. One thing I want to say while I'm over here is, well, we'll start with this. This is your park brake, emergency brake, park brake situation. Right next to it, flush next to it, is the mode selector. Now our modes I've told you about. We have off-road, snow and ice, sport, and touring. And if you put it on sport, I don't really see. There's an information. It increases power output and tightens vehicle handling. Resets when you turn the vehicle off. So use smooth controlled motions to accelerate and brake for a more controlled ride. Maximize mid-corner traction by braking before turning. It's like telling you how to drive. I mean, or sort of. Ah, geez, I tell you, I don't get it. Use the drive mode controller. So here we go back to mode and back to tour. Good. All right. So anyway, here's the thing I have right here. Like I said, all-wheel drive can be accessed just like that and taken off just like that. I've now back to just front-wheel drive. But the park brake and the mode selector are right next to each other, and like they bump up next to each other. So I was attempting to access this while I was on the highway, and I bumped that. And what happened? Did it lock up the rear brakes? No, it didn't. But what it did do is put the brakes on for a second, the rear brake on for a second. And then the computer said, oh, we're going 65. We really shouldn't do that. So I don't know how the thing is supposed to work in an emergency stopping situation, but my point being, I hate it when we have controls that are almost exactly the same from a tactile standpoint, right next to each other. I got chewed out by somebody in the comments on Genesis. I believe it might have been a GV70, that I pointed out that the transmission selector dial and the mode selector dial for your audio system and map system and everything else were right next to each other on the console and about the same diameter. And it would be easy to mistake one for the other. And he said, "Oh, I've had 6 of these cars, and you know, they don't do. I've never driven into anything yet. I've never crashed in my garage or anything by selecting the wrong one." Well, that's not my point, dude. My point is this: they shouldn't be so close together that that is even possible, and it is possible because I did it. I have actually, and it's not a safety thing as much as I reached down to adjust something on the screen, touch screen, and I hit the transmission thing by mistake. So I have to, and it has a different texture to the outside of the dial, but you can still do it by mistake. They just shouldn't be right next to each other like that. Ditto for this right here, the mode and the parking brake. The parking brake should be somewhere a little bit more separate and accessible independently, because you may need it in an emergency. Unlikely, but possible. So anyhow, we have all this other information. It's telling me I've been getting about 22.7 miles per gallon over the last 127 miles, and the previous 716.6 miles, 21.5 miles per gallon. That's very good gas mileage. But you'd kind of expect that with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, even though this is a 4,700 pound vehicle. Anyway, so that's that. Now, the shifter is a column shifter right over here, and it's fine for the most part. There's your drive, neutral, and reverse. So it's fairly intuitive. And then park is right there. Well, there we go. So that's that. But I must say something about that. This means that your windshield washer controls are over here on the turn signal stalk, which also doubles as your high beam, of course. And this is how you wash your do a little spritz on your windshield. But I find this a really awkward placement to have this on the right side, because almost everybody is putting the windshield wiper stalk on the right side. And this being on the left side is just, you got to look for it. And it takes time. I've had to drive in the rain quite a bit with this vehicle. And it just is counterintuitive. It's something you have to relearn if you've been driving anything else. But that's the way they want to do it, and largely or solely because of the stock-mounted transmission over here. So I don't know. Now, you may notice we have our paddles here. What do you do if you want to go into manual mode? You press the L button down here, and first shift to drive, then drive again. Thank you. If you're in drive and you press the low button, then you have access to manually selecting with the 8-speed automatic transmission. So that's cool. We can do that. That's something enjoyable for us to do if we want to drive manually. And I already shared with you all those different drive modes. So you also have Super Cruise on this, which you will see in action. It's pretty interesting how all that works. It has to have, in order to do full super cruising, it has to have access to Google Maps, which it does, provided the vehicle is getting a good enough signal from the internets to navigate the vehicle. So it uses that, plus a combination of the normal sensors, the LiDAR and radar and whatever, and the visual's right up in here, your screen. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's where it is. So it combines all these things into one drivable thing that will autonomize your driving experience. It seems to work fairly well. This little band right up here illuminates in different colors to tell you what's going on when you have that engaged. When you have your cruise control engaged and your Super Cruise is on, this is what changes color to blue, like it's standby mode. Green is everything's beautiful and we're driving the car by ourselves. This is the car telling you, I'm driving by myself. And then red, when it shuts the system down, which it does under a variety of different circumstances. it's much safer to have the person take over manual control of the car. So you know how it's going. We have all this artificial intelligence, they call it, software that uses a variety of different sensors to try to take over the task of the tedious task of driving away from you and putting it into the hands of the car. And whether or not you're comfortable with that is up to you, but it does work fairly well. It's specifically designed when you're on like a 4-lane interstate highway type situation. Then that's when it works at its best, and it gets under those circumstances, provided it has good map input from Google, it can take care of your driving chores for the most part and relegate you to the role of observer. Kind of like when pilots are flying Airbus A380 across the Atlantic. The plane is pretty much flying itself and they're in monitor phase. And that's been that way with aircraft for quite a long time. So anyway, that is all about that, and you'll see it in action very shortly. Right outside over here's our phone access. Here's our heated steering. Here's our music player access, which is this vehicle in particular had XM satellite, but the free the free 3 months or whatever it is they give you has already expired on this vehicle, which has 6,600, almost 6,700 miles on it. So, and as you'll see, there's so many advantages to getting, for me as a reviewer, to get a hold of a vehicle that has this kind of mileage on it, or even a little more, because everything's seated, everything's broken in, the engine is as smooth as it's ever going to be, and everything should be all meshed in, drived in, and everything else. When you get a really low mileage one, it's not like I just don't think the engine is quite broken in enough to give it full credit about how smooth it does things, especially idling. Because nobody likes a nice smooth idle more than I do. This does have auto start and stop, by the way, but it hasn't. An interesting thing is it hasn't been using it as much as most cars that I've been driving lately do, and I'm not sure why that is. It's definitely contingent upon what kind of circumstances, like the outside temperature and things like that, whether or not it will actually disconnect the engine. But anyway, let's move on. We're moving into our center screen right here, which I had the map up, there we go, is beautiful. It's a very nice HD 3D affair. And it seems to work extremely well. I like it a lot. You can go through a mode here where you can actually put it there. And here's your, where's my speed? There's your speed. There's your tachometer. There's your fuel gauge. Everything you need right there. Plus you have that beautiful map and that beautiful. You have two beautiful maps to guide you, which is pretty great. What else? This is another cluster option, by the way, and that's just to show you what's going on with the adaptive cruise control, and that's always good to know. But see, those are basically your settings, those three right there. Can we go up and down and do things? No, that'll just turn on the thingy that I don't want turned on right now. Oh well. And it'll turn itself off in a minute and go back to the regular. Well, I want to do this actually. See, I want to go back. I want to go back. There we go. So I still can't tell you right off the bat. It would take me 10 minutes to figure it out again, but how I actually got the trip meters up there, but it took a while. And I had to go through the main interface of the center screen to find the right place to do that. There's no, I see this more and more these days, there's no dedicated switch to the trip odometer, what there used to be. And it makes it fast and easy, but it's not fast and easy anymore, unless you do what I do and you leave it up here. If I wanted to reset this, I could do it pretty quickly, I think. Oh yes, here's our check mark. If I press this down, it will reset one of those. But which one? You see, everybody could do better work with their menu system on their control interface for the human beings. That's what I think. Pretty much every single manufacturer could do a better job than they're presently doing. Once you get used to the car, if you own this car, you'll figure its ways out. You'll be fine in time. But why would you have to go to all that trouble? You know, it should be intuitive. Okay, now from here we go to our climate control selection, and of course naturally there is a separate, you got a separate thing here. I'll push that button there. There's that. There's our home. You have all kinds of things. Oh, before I forget, if you're adjusting the seat, like it does have adjustable lumbar on the seat, what you got to do is you got to hit this, and it can massage if you want, or you can just adjust the lumbar right here, which I'm now doing. I'm putting air in it, taking air out of it, because there's a separate control on the side usual. But this is a little graphic that'll help you on your way as far as figuring out what the heck you're doing with the seat. These seats are a bit odd in that they're really flat, like they're made for extremely large people, because they don't have a whole lot in the way of side bolsters. Your lateral support's just not there. It's just kind of flat. And that's a little bit of a disappointment, because most cars are getting pretty good at putting in good side bolsters. And this one's having its issues, in my opinion, with it, but the seat is still, overall, it's pretty comfortable. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you about, hang on just a minute. Hang on, I'm going for this. I'm going to free this while you enjoy the home screen. There we go, I just ripped it to bits. What is our interior? We have heated and ventilated seats, of course. Do you access them easily? No. I have, in fact, actually, here we go. Here's our heating and our cooling right here. Press on that and it's on and off for your cooling. And I'm going to put the cooling on the lowest setting right there. Thank you. So now I'm getting some seat ventilation. Again, it's fairly intuitive, but it's not as intuitive as it could be if you just had a dedicated switch. But again, this is what they think people want, so that's what they do. They're always trying to do what they think you want. They're not trying to order you about. They're not trying to, well, there's some people that would argue about that. But they are primarily trying to do what they perceive to be what people want. And that's why they've gone so crazy with touchscreens, because they think that's what everybody wants. And maybe they're right. I just don't know. Our seats are composed of I can't even find it now. I think these are leather. They feel like leather. It seems like a very durable leather-like material. Options and pricing. The Super Cruise package, by the way, adds $3,730 to the price of the vehicle. Enhanced automatic parking. I never mess with automatic parking because A, you should know how to drive your car enough to park it, and B, the parking circumstances around here and such just aren't conducive to that sort of thing. The rear camera monitor, the chassis all-wheel drive system, that's another $2,000. That's interesting that they just tack that on like that. Yeah, here we go, ebony perforated leather. So that's what we're looking at here, folks. There's your ebony perforated. Oh, wow, I was looking for this. That's my dump sticker. It's interesting stitching here because it looks kind of funkadelic. I like that. But like I said, you don't have a whole lot by way of side bolsters, which it tasks me. But you do have a console area, and this is your on-off and your volume selector for your stereo system. Here we have a very, very easy to access charger region, QI charger for your cell phone, which you just pop it in there just like that. And it seems to work very well. It doesn't seem to be charging right now, though. Hey, man. Hey, what's up? I don't know. There we go. It's charging, and it's 97% charged. How about that? Here's your cup holders. They're nice. And then we have our console is actually pretty deep, so you can get a lot of stuff in here. How about USB-C, USB standard A? You know, that is disappearing on cars, by the way. It's real nice that GM give you one of each. Good for them. I like that a lot. I don't quite think well, you could get a tablet in here, but it's not the world's roomiest glove box. It's got a fair amount of room in it. It's just shaped differently, that doesn't have one of these deep, flat recesses where it seems to be very, very conducive to the stowage of your iPad or equivalent. So, what else? This does have one of those systems that tells you if you're tired, but it's real easy to turn off because I found it somehow very quickly initially, and I was able to do that. I was able to turn it off, so because I hate those things. Here's our easy storage for our sunglasses, and then we have our sunroofage. Now, where is the thing? Oh, here's our maps, which are of course LED maps. I mean, that's the way these days. Here we go with this. It'll tilt like that, and then we have our shade, and it's closing now. And if I go the other way, can we lift up? No. What's this? Yes, we can. Look at that. It's a nice big sunroof. Oh, I like that. Spacious. And there's the outdoors, as you can see. We have outdoors here, and it is summer. Summer has arrived. Okay, so what else do I need to tell you about here? The most important thing you need to remember is the shifter's funky. The windshield wipers are on the left side instead of the right side. Your park brake, emergency brake situation jibes with your mode selector, and they need to fix that, in my opinion. Maybe that no one's ever complained about. I'm the only person on the planet ever noticed and complained about that. And that tells you more about me than it does about the car. So with that said, let's see, is there anything else I need to tell you? Oh, I know what I need to tell you. I need to tell you what that back seat is like, because we have 2 rows to come. Let's go to our second row, and we have captain's chairs. Hello, Captain. Look at the size of this door. That's like on the presidential limousine size. That thing is huge, that door, and it opens almost 90 degrees, but very easy to facilitate the seating of, I would say, older people, larger people, because it's very easy to get in the back seat of this thing. You have tons of leg room. You have the ability, or do you? Do you have the ability? You can recline. Woohoo! Up, yeah, up. I do love the reclining. And it's very, very simple. You have your automatic mode back here, and you can set your temperature just like in the front. And it goes all the way to the back, by the way, so your second and third row passengers are going to be very comfortable. How's our window? 100%. That's a big window, too, and a nice low belt line. And that, in combination with the panorama, makes you feel it's very, very roomy back here. And you have a very nice LED map light. And you have some little, these are really tight. There's not a whole lot you could get back here, but I'm sure you could find something to put there if you're clever. What do we have here? 2 USB-Cs and a 110 right there. That's great, but you know what else you have on these seats? They're heated. You can heat these seats. You can't ventilate them, but you can, in fact, heat them up in the wintertime, which is very nice. Access to the third row is very simple because you have an aisle. I do like an aisle. And I've got this, I could swear you could move these things. Hang on a minute. Hang on now. I could have sworn there's a way to, I'm not sure. Well, as is, we could do that. You would think you'd be able to move that pretty. There we go. That's where it should be. The room here is, like I say, it's a usable third row for adults. You don't have the world's most abundant leg room, but you have decent foot room, and you have plenty of headroom back here, and you have all this wonderful ventilation, which I don't now access, and get some air conditioning back here. You have map lights for your third row. How about that? That's thinking of everything. So again, this is one of the biggest things on these GM vehicles, these particular SUVs, the Traverse, by Chevrolet, the Acadia by GMC, and the Enclave by Buick. They have a very usable third row. And man, do you have a lot of cargo space if you just want to put these seats down and haul something, because you got a hell of a lot of space to do so. So there you go. That's pretty much it. I have no truck at all with this third row. It's fine. If you were 6'6", you'd be uncomfortable. But why are you so tall? That's what I would ask. Otherwise, I think most normal humans will be comfortable. And if you have kids, that's a real nice space for them back there. Okay? Okay, let's move on. This is one of those stop the presses moments. I have to share something with you. You know, I noticed in my perusal of this vehicle that I couldn't find any place to turn the lights on and off. Kind of a basic thing. Usually you expect to find it among a cluster over here, or perhaps on this turnstock, which is already overloaded with windshield wiper stuff. But I had to consult the owner's manual, and sure enough, your lights are part of the central touchscreen. I kid you not. And there's a symbol, the lighting symbol. You press that, and they're on automatic now, and you can turn on the parking lights, or the headlights, or automatic, or off. And if you ever need to do that, if you ever need to turn off, look at how fast that goes. But you have to actually, on most cars, you can actually adjust this, your lights, whether they're on or off or whatever. With a switch, you can literally, once you get to know it, you can do it without ever looking looking away from the roadway or anything like that. But on this car, you have to actually use the central touchscreen in order to access the lights. I find that a bad choice by General Motors, but that's my opinion. You may think it's just great. Oh, you never touch the lights in these cars anyway. This is what they're saying. I know. I can hear them. But they're saying you never touch the lights anyway. You just leave them on automatic. What's the problem? Well, I have a problem with that, because there's times I have to turn all my lights off for all kinds of different reasons, like if I'm stalking a raccoon down the driveway or something like that. But anyway, I just thought you should know that, because I didn't cover that earlier, and I think that's kind of important. Now I want you kids to behave back there. Crazy children. As you can see, I do this. I've relegated you to the third of 3 rows, so you can get a sense of the incredible space that you have in this vehicle. It's all about the third row, man. If you're going to get this vehicle, it's a 3-row vehicle. I suggest that you use all 3 rows. That's what it's for. That's why people buy them, I believe, is they do have a full complement of passengers that they need to haul around. Or, here's another thing to think about that's amazing about this vehicle, is if you don't need that much passenger room, you can fold those third row seats down, and you have a substantial amount of cargo space back there. Plus, you can put 2 people behind you, you see. And as before, I don't know, I'm willing to bet somewhere in the lineup you can get a bench seat for that second row as opposed to captain chairs. Captain chairs are nice, but they, from a utility standpoint, not so much. Well, okay then. I'm still wrestling with some wrestling things. Every car nowadays, in this being the quarter century mark, we're at the quarter century mark of the 2000s. Think about that. How did that happen? I remember when it was just the millennium when everybody's worried about. Now, it's 25 years later and everything's gone to hell in a handcart. Well, there's always something on these new 25s that is a little bit vexing. And I'm still working on a lot of the things here. I don't... Here's a prediction that it's a prediction. It's actually not a prediction. It's a hope that the manufacturers are going to start finally dealing with the fact that a touchscreen is not best for everything. And it might be worth considering putting some knobs back, especially when it comes to just the good old-fashioned radio on-off, volume, and tuning. Because I don't know about you, I don't know what your listening habits are like. A lot of people are hardcore streamers, and they just stream stuff off their phone. But there's still people out there that engage with various radio stations and that sort of thing. And man, I really miss having, I have a CD player in my now ancient vehicle. God, it's only 11 years old, but it's ancient now. And boy, I'm glad. I love its anciency because there's a whole lot of stuff it does not have that can break on it. But anyhow, it's still valuable to make it easy to navigate your sound system and without taking your eyes off the road. And I know they're going on and on about, well, have you tested the latest in voice technology where you just tell the car what to... Yeah, but I've had problems with that too. It is better than it's ever been. I will tell you right now, the voice recognition has gotten better than it's ever been before. And it's good on this car, actually. But it still has great limitations, and it can still make mistakes, and I still get in fights with it. And so there's two ways I'm fighting the modern automobile. A is if it has some kind of a steering control mode to keep you from running off the road, when sometimes you have to go where the computers and stuff don't understand where you're going and why. And usually that is because you are actively involved in not having an accident or getting around something like a deer or something like that, and the car will fight you and try to stop you from doing that. And I don't like that, and I don't like the fact that when I start using the voice integration, I end up fighting with her. But so that we got these things that, you know, go back. I know when this is what happens when you start to get older like me. You start to go back and look, well, how were things before and how is it better now? And there are so many things on modern cars that are so much better than older cars, but there's a lot of mistakes going on, especially right now with the integration and more touchscreens and more artificial intelligence. It's actually causing problems that we've never seen before. And one of my big bugaboos about the whole thing is I feel that they're not doing enough testing. It's as simple as that. They need to test more before they launch these things upon an unsuspecting public. They need to drive them more. And it's like, I can't help but wonder if some of these vehicles are designed, a vehicle that used to take 5 or 6 years to design and test before putting it on the market, is now being done in 2, and it shows. Because I swear there's so many things with modern cars that you feel like they didn't really test this, did they? Now, one of those things I was just talking about is this stalk shifter. I like stalk shifters a lot, but this one is kind of goofy in some ways. And they do things like I mentioned earlier. They put the mode that you select your drive mode, and this has like 7 different drive modes right next to it, and I mean bumped up against it with the same general feel of area is your emergency/park brake. And I was driving along on the highway and I was trying to change the mode, and I hit that park button by mistake. Now, it didn't slam on the brakes or anything else, but it did hit the brakes, and it did do this. And what if I needed that to actually stop the car? I had some kind of catastrophic mechanical failure and I needed to stop the car quickly. How does that work? It overrides it somehow. And an old mechanical system, while they're a pain in the butt, and the new electronic ones are much easier to service if you need service for it, but you could put it on You wouldn't put it on by accident, extremely unlikely, because it was either a handbrake or a pedal. And it was very distinctive from every other control in the car. And so therefore, you would be able to gradually apply that emergency brake, park brake, if you needed to. But they're so convinced that people will never have to do that now, because your brake systems, you have the double redundancy, or is it just redundancy? You just have a redundant brake system and I still think it's the same as the brake fluid goes this way to the right front, left rear, and left front, right rear. So if you have a leak somewhere in that, on either of those two lines, the other line will take over, and you'll still have some brakes. You'll have half the brakes you had, but you'll have brakes. So, again, better or not better? And has it been tested enough? You tell me none of the test drivers have done this, have actually accidentally hit that parking thing when they were changing drive modes. Apparently not. Apparently I'm an inept. But I drive more different cars than they do. I will say that to their face. And the experience I have is an immediately intuitive or not intuitive situation with how they lay out their controls. All right, let's give it the gun, Algernon. Here we go. See, it's pretty quick. There seems to be a strange lag between second and third that I can't explain. It's just not like, and I think there's just a change in ratio. There's a certain set distance between first and second, and then it's a further jump to third from second, something like that. It's nothing wrong with the transmission at all, and I don't think it's programming. Maybe it is. Maybe it's something electronic. But it could just be something as mundane as the actual, all right, let's put on every bit of electronic driver assistant. Now, it did not, the steering part didn't go on. Let's try again. Super Cruise unavailable because there's no road information. Okay. So they don't know map-wise where we are. Good thing I do. Let's see, let's pump this up a little bit. And another thing, you have an analog right here. You have a digital right there. And then you have the speed that the cruise control set down here. Why all this complexity? Why not just have a regular analog speedometer, for example, and then a large display that tells you what you've just set your cruise control onto? I think that'd be good. You know, they've had trouble with this stoplight for a long time now. And it looks like they're finally getting around to fixing it. Huh. That's bizarre. That's a very busy intersection, actually. It's been like this for 2 days. Anyway, that's not here or there. All right, let's take her up. What was that? Oh, there's a whale on top of us. Oh no, that was just the bots. Well, it used to be, that is the modern equivalent of the bots dots. There was a guy named Bots, and he built some dots, and the dots were the little things that they put in the road in Texas anyway. That if you were wandering over to that double yellow line and wandered over it, there were bots dots in the double yellow line area, and that would set up a vibration to tell you, whoa, get back over. Well, now they've kind of refined it up here to make it more annoying than it was. Bots dots weren't near as annoying as what we have now, but you could argue, and I would support your argument, that it's more effective than the bots dots because it really tells you to get your ass on over here. So these are all things worth considering when we look at the evolution of the evolutionary trends of the automobile surface that we drive on, i.e. roadway. Okay, now let's try again. I could swear yesterday, nope. Oh, lane ending is the reason why I can't figure that out. All right, let's try again. There we go. Green. We are now super cruising. Super cruise. Dun, dun. What's that theme from the original Superman? Dun, 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 dun. John Williams, ladies and gentlemen. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. May Christopher Reeves rest in peace. Mosquito. Wow, just hit right on my face. What a jerk. We're going to fight him off. What's the first thing I see underneath this Enclave Avenir? This thing. What in the world is that? Well, it's a protector, I guess, from something coming from the side. Hell, I don't know. I don't know what that is. But anyway, let's check. Oh, hello. So here's our undercarriage, our rear suspension of our Enclave, and a bunch of interesting things, fascinating things, actually. One thing right off the bat here is, what in this world is this wire doing? Well, it's attached. It appears to be attached to this shock absorber. So when you put it in the sport mode, I suppose it's doing something with the suspension, maybe? Is there one on both sides? Yeah, there it is. Plugging right in there and coming right around here. So I think that's adjusting our shock absorbers depending on the setting. Now, as you can see, we have a multi-link rear suspension, fully independent. And here is your subframe right up here, which is bolted to your unibody. Interesting thing about this unibody, I'm going to show you in just a second, but this thing is definitely reinforced. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see most of the links pretty clearly. Here's a lateral link right here. Here's your front link, which is at a jaunty angle right there. And then, what's this right here? That's part of your anti-sway. And here we have your shaft of driving and your differential. And wow, look at this. It's like a huge, long torque tube. And there's the drive shaft up there. Isn't that interesting? That's like a torque tube. So I wonder, is there a U-joint all the way back here? Because this is all fixed. Interesting. And also that side protector, there's a side protector on the driver's side as well. So what in the world is going on with all that? I don't know. It's very interesting, though. This thing looks real substantial underneath here. And one of the things I first noticed, besides the side protection aspect, is look at all these structural things right here. There's one. There's one. There's one. We got them on the other side. Yeah, I think so. Yep. On both sides. It looks like to further reinforce the unibody and make it stiffer, which is always good for things like your handling and your ride quality. So they've done a lot to stiffen up this chassis. What is it based on, I wonder? There's nothing else other than these big SUVs. It is the Chevrolet Traverse, by the way. The GMC Acadia in the Buick Enclave. And what in the world is that? Oh, that's a thing. But we have a very substantial setup here as far as, we have a skid plate, as you can see up front. Right there's our, is that our well, it's not our transfer case, but that's where our transmission does in fact, oh, look, there's water from our air conditioning pouring out. You see that right there? Yeah, it's that kind of day. It's very warm and very humid. So it's doing its job. Now here's an oddity for you. I have to double check the mileage on this thing, but this exhaust pipe right here already looks like it's rusting, which is very strange. This side is fine, but this is the main exhaust pipe going up to the 4-cylinder engine. And I don't know what's going on with that. There must be a fair amount of water that gets into the system somehow. I don't know. Or maybe this was down in Florida, like in the hanging out by the Everglades before it got to me. I have no idea. But what else? Well, we have in here, this is interesting, we have like a thing inside our coil spring. I'm not sure what that is because this is our outboard shock absorber, which I already showed you the electrical link to that. And what exactly this does, I don't know. That's really interesting. But the suspension on this car is great, so maybe it's some kind of a dampener to further make the ride smooth, because it is a good ride, a very good ride on this. Very quiet, and there's very little suspension noise, by the way, so that may be tied into that. I'm not real sure, to tell you the truth. But there you go. What else can I show you? Well, good ground clearance, as you can tell. Right up here are our AA arm lowers, right there. And what's really interesting to me is with these 22-inch wheels, you do get that over 7 inches of ground clearance. So you could do a reasonable amount of careful off-roading with this vehicle. It does have an off-road setting, and it does have all-wheel drive. As you know, it is primarily a front drive most of the time to help facilitate fuel economy as much as anything else. And you don't need the wear and tear on the all-wheel drive system when you don't need all-wheel drive. So, you know, that's how that works out. So let's back up a little bit here. And here is there's a spare tire in there. And immediately on top of that is a very nice little storage area for stuff. So room, and more room in this Enclave. The Avenir. Really interesting about this rear differential here. And the sway bar runs right behind it. So everything is nice and tucked away, and everything looks very stout, reinforced to a certain extent. These A-arms here, you see heavier. This is to lighten the weight right here, this big hole right here, which is what you want to do anyway, because you want your unsprung weight to be as low as possible. So all these things help with the response of the suspension, and you got all this sophisticated spring work going on to help give you that excellent ride quality. So what else can I tell you? Not a whole lot, other than I like the way everything seems to be running very neatly. See, here's a bunch of our wiring and some, what the heck is that? That almost looks like a hose, but I don't think it actually is. I think that is more in keeping with just more of our plumbing. And there is, here's our fuel tank, by the way, and here is a little bit of a protector for that, but not much. And I still don't know what this and this are actually for, other than to protect you from side impact or something. It just looks like one of those things that was added later for some reason. You know what it could be? I'll tell you what it could be. Is there a possibility that's largely cosmetic, just to hide the exhaust pipe from people walking up to the car from the side who are short? I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing here. So anyway, but there's our rear suspension, and it kind of explains the very, very nice ride quality, because it's very well thought out, and it's fairly complex dealing with all this stuff. So there you go. Thank you, Enclave Avenir.
So our 2025 Buick Enclave Avenir has a base price of, let's see there. What's that say? Can you read that? I think that's $58,000. And with all the options, including the Super Cruise package, which is a very expensive thing, our sticker came to $65,125. Our EPA, 21 city, 24 highway, and 21 overall, 19 city, 24 highway. So what do we think? Well, our little 4-cylinder engine did a decent job of both fuel economy, and it got the vehicle around just fine. There is tremendous room in this vehicle, as you can see as the power gate unfolds magically. And it has tremendously good room for human beings, including in that third row, which is why a lot of folks buy these things, is because they want that third row to be able to accommodate their children or a couple of adults. All told, with the all-wheel drive, you have a great all-around, year-round vehicle for your family. And it's not really super expensive considering all the great stuff on it. So, I think you should, if you're looking for something in this size class, take a look. You may enjoy it. Take care out there. See you next time.
You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.